Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order this Tuesday, June 27th, 2023 Pierce County Council meeting and Tuesday study session. All members are present. The time is approximately 12:03 p.m. Item number 2 is review of today's council meeting agenda. Mr. Cox to brief the council.
Yes, Chair Mello, members of the council, Jeff Cox, council staff. The first item on this afternoon's agenda is under the consent, item number 5. And the first item on that is proposal R 2023-98, which is confirming the appointment of one new member, Marlo Ash, to the Pierce County Citizens Commission on salaries for elected officials. And this is up for final consideration. The next up, item 2, is proposal R 2023-104. It's a resolution calling for an election to be held on November 7th, 2023, for the purpose of submitting to the affected voters the determination of whether or not to establish a Sumner Library capital facility area to finance a new library in the city of Sumner, describing the boundaries of the area and requesting the prosecuting attorney to prepare an appropriate ballot title. This is for referral to the Rules and Operations Committee, and a date of final council hearing has been set for July 18th. Next up is proposal R 2023-105. This is a resolution of the council declaring certain tax title lands to be sold, authorizing the county executive to pursue disposal of the property by sale, lease, or exchange, and authorizing the executive to sell certain tax title lands by private negotiation without a call for bids for not less than the principal amount of the unpaid taxes pursuant to RCW Chapter 36.35. And this is for referral to the Rules and Operations Committee with a final council hearing date of July 18th. That is your consent agenda. Next up, you have under item 6, messages from the executive. You have one message transmitting ordinance number 2023-19, which is amending chapter 1.28 of the Pierce County Code Rules of Procedure, Pierce County Council, and that was signed. Next up, you're under item 7, you have one proclamation. It's actually recognizing, it's a resolution recognizing Dr. Anthony L.T. Chen for over 14 years of exemplary service to the community in Pierce County, Washington. This will be up for final consideration. Under item 8, ordinances, you have one proposal. It is proposal 2023-16. This is an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to the town of Eatonville. This is for locating sewer lines on certain county-owned rights-of-way and authorizing the executive to execute the franchise. This received a due pass recommendation, Economic and Infrastructure Development Committee on June 13th. It's up for final consideration. Next, under item 9, resolutions, you have one resolution, that's R 2023-95. It's adopting a new organization chart for the Pierce County Council. This received a due pass recommendation at the Rules and Operations Committee on June 20th, and it's up for final consideration. And that is your agenda for this afternoon, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Before I see if there's any questions or comments about today's council meeting agenda, let me make certain members are aware. Item number 4 under consent, where we are scheduling the resolution with council adopting its preliminary 2024-2025 biennial budget priorities. This, as you can see, it's introduced. This has been a lot of work by this council and our policy staff. So the draft is loaded up for council review. I want to really thank Mr. Taylor in particular for his work, and Mr. Boki for listening through our many sessions on this and synthesizing and putting it in a form to be considered by council so we can transmit this to the executive. You'll see the date of final council hearing is July 11th. So urge you to read it. And if you have any proposed edits, I do ask that you that we confer either through Mr. Taylor or myself, but I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Do hope to pass it on July 11th so that we can communicate, so we can transmit this immediately to the executive as he is actively preparing his 24-25 budget for our consideration. So I wanted to bring that to members' attention. And members have done a lot of work on that. I wanted to also be clear on that item. What we are anticipating doing here, as you can see, we are transmitting our budget priorities to the executive. There is the companion document that we've worked on since early this year about our policy priorities that may or may not have direct budget implications. That too is getting ready and getting soon in final form by our policy team and our communications team. Council will be able to see that. You've seen many drafts to date, but that is the longer list of 92 or so actions in the different major categories that we've been discussing that council has set. That is getting finalized in a format that looks beautiful, I think. This item is our budget priorities to communicate to the executive. They do speak to each other, but I wanted to be clear about that. Thank you again to the team who's worked so hard on that on council's behalf. Other questions or comments about our meeting agenda for today? Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. We had an addition that made it to the packet. It was emailed out by Audrey, but isn't on the agenda yet. And so I wanted to know if now would be an appropriate time to pass it out and go through it. It's the
Yes.
looking at flag. Okay. So there's- So Mr. Bridges helped work with Councilmember Campbell and I on this, but there was, well, I guess having Mr. Bridges introduce it since it's new, but really the goal is in our council space, our space in here, being able to post a flag that we feel is important to show an acknowledgement. I know when Ukraine first was invaded, several of us had flags up here on the dais to show support. There's been times other people have done things where they wanted to recognize. We've had sports teams that have been recognized, but we ran into this issue of a county policy in a smaller way of doing that here in our chambers. So thinking about how we could do that, it's been done before with wanting something within the council chambers through council action. So this seemed like an efficient way of trying to figure out a way for us to do this. So.
Any questions or so I think the request I'm hearing, Councilmember Hitchin, is that this be placed on today's consent agenda for the purposes of scheduling.
Yes.
Councilmember Denson on this topic or no? So
No.
I'm going to keep on this thread if that's okay, Councilmember Denson. I'll look for hands on this topic so we can stay on this thread. Councilmember Krueger, is your comment or question on this thread?
I have a question, please.
Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Chair. What specifically is being recognized?
Nothing. This is a procedure. It's.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hitchin, what is the request in terms of calendaring? It would be, it would show up on consent today. And what is the intention for calendaring?
The
Or
intention would be rules on the 10th and council on the 11th. And I know that council is pretty packed on the 11th, but that was what we were hoping for when we had the conversation.
okay. Other questions or comments on that? Staff, if you could calendar accordingly, please. Councilmember Denson,
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, I had
Bridges.
a question about something on the consent agenda, Chair,
go
if
ahead.
that's okay. And I did talk to, well, okay, it's in regards to proposal R 2023-105, declaring certain tax title lands be sold. And I did talk to Mr. Boki about this, but looking at it again, I just had another question about whether this is the way we typically do it, because the title talks about selling the land by private negotiation. When you open up the actual resolution, at the very end, it says that this land can be sold by auction or private negotiation. And I guess I just had a question about whether this was typical. Because I would think we would want to allow anyone in the public to bid on these properties. Otherwise, I'm not sure how the private negotiation happens. There's a number of properties here, whether neighbors have reached out or, who these people are. I don't know. It's probably a question for Mr. Boki, who's not here, but didn't know if anyone could answer that, if this was kind of typical. Does that kind of make sense? I saw the private negotiation. I was like, well, that doesn't seem right. And it seems like it could be done either way.
Right, Hugh Taylor, council staff, as far as this being, is this the typical process that the county uses? The answer is yes. The form of this legislation is the form that's been used for many years. There are three means to dispose of property that are authorized by this resolution. One is privately negotiated sale, which is not uncommon. This resolution would also allow for property to be transferred to other government entities, and that's spelled out in the exhibit. As far as the bidding on the properties, we can get facilities to follow up on this, but I think their normal process on these tax title properties is that there is an opportunity early on for folks to bid, and these are properties that didn't get any takers.
Oh,
In
okay.
some cases, I'm not saying all of them fit into that category, but in some cases, they've already been put out for an opportunity for folks to try to acquire. But we can get facilities to speak to that in more detail. At committee.
Yeah, thank you. I would hope that the public would have had a chance to bid on it if they were interested. Most of them look like roads and most of them do not look buildable. So I don't know that anyone would be interested, but we certainly want everyone to have the same opportunity to bid if they'd like.
Yes, I did. Yeah. It's not like I pointed out earlier, in some instances, the property would be beneficial to retain in public ownership. And this would facilitate that, allowing that property to be transferred. So for instance, property could be transferred to Pierce County. It's tax title right now, which means the county is essentially the trustee, custodian of the property. But this would allow for certain properties to be transferred to Pierce County government, like for right of ways.
Yeah, I'm seeing one that's like right along the interstate. So,
And there could be other government entities that have an interest in certain tax title properties as well. So this enables that to occur also.
okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
I have a question.
Vice Chair Campbell?
Thank you, Chair. Do we have an established hierarchy of who gets like first rights to consider it?
Are you speaking to government entities?
Yes.
I'm not aware that we have any formally adopted hierarchy, like, county first, city second, special purpose districts third. I don't know that there is. We can ask facilities that they have something that they use in terms of their screening of these properties. But I'm not aware of a formalized prioritization of,
If you could get back to me on that, and if we don't, it's something that I'd like to tee up for future discussion, especially when we look at our tribal nations and many of their usual and accustomed lands, allowing them perhaps first right of, consider purchasing the land. We also want to make sure we compare it against affordable housing needs. But make sure that we have an opportunity. I think Councilmember Morrell brought that up with the parcel in Gig Harbor. Did we consult with the local tribal agency? And I think that we should make sure that we are fully making sure that those that would have considered these, but I know that's policy change. I might want to tee up. Let's see what we do now currently. I know that's a little off topic of what we are here, but let me get that conversation going. Thank you.
okay, I'm happy to do that.
For all members' information, I'll note that we have started this work about a surplus land policy
That is correct.
and
One of your
updating the county
priorities.
surplus land. So this is very consistent with work that I think is in the queue. And a surplus land policy update was called for in the Affordable Housing Action Strategy. as adopted by the council. Definitely hearing the wider conversation about what current protocol is, how we work with other governments, including tribal governments, but this work is in the queue to update our surplus land policy and is very consistent with that.
That's correct. It's identified in the council's draft priorities document. It's also identified in your housing action strategy as a desired policy, a surplus land policy, specifically in the context of that plan to look at affordable housing. But there's other items that have come up as well, as Councilmember Campbell noted.
And one of the things that we were discussing is a site to an RCW, and the RCW site is for using that tax title properties for housing. So we'll investigate that because I think this is part of this ordinance.
Thank you. I guess the thing that I wanted to express, and thank you, Councilmember Denson, for raising it. I realize county government needs to continue working. And we can't stop all process as it relates to how do we dispose of surplus property? How do we dispose of tax title property? I guess, the executive's office is aware that council is very interested in how we update these policies and take into consideration affordable housing needs, other local government needs. Ideally, we would put a pause on surplusing property and surplus property until we got this updated. In my mind, we've expressed this interest that we want to update the policy for these various purposes. If there's a very compelling business reason why we need to pursue surplus, I think council would certainly entertain that. But we've expressed interest in updating this policy. And so taking a pause to do that, I think would be in the county's interest so that we don't lose opportunities in the meantime. Councilmember Morel.
Thank you. I guess, looking into this a little bit deeper, as you indicated, most of these are right-of-ways that have been given, road right-of-ways. A lot of it is private road right-of-ways where easements have been granted to lots. So they decide not to pay taxes on it anymore, and it refers back to the county. I would like to see some kind of to see if they have a policy for notifying adjacent property owners pertaining to these defaults. I actually picked up my private road through that process. And it was because 20 years ago, the county or someone approached me and said, do you want to pick this up? And of course, I want to control my private road. So, but I don't know if there's a formal process in doing that notification.
Councilmember Morel, I don't know that there is a formal process. I believe there is because in most cases, Councilmember Denson is correct. Most of these parcels are bits and pieces. Anything that's a pretty nice property, so to speak, usually gets grabbed up prior to that when it goes to the first auction or whatever online. Most of these you're going to see when this comes forward on the maps are little strips of land. Some cases, a governmental entity might pick it up because they want some of the right of way or something like that. It's a lot of odds and ends. And usually the adjacent landowner or owners, whatever the case may be, are the only ones that are going to be interested. Some are completely landlocked.
Right. And then my follow-up question, if they don't sell for back taxes or whatever, what does the county do with it? What is their long-range policy? And do they have to continue to pay fire districts, school districts? How does that work?
I think it says.
Yeah, if there isn't a disposal of the property, it retains in tax title status. The county is not paying the taxes of those special purpose districts. Those taxes are accruing on those tax title properties. Any proceeds that are received from the sale of those properties are distributed across the taxing districts. That's the benefit of disposing of the properties, is those taxing districts get a portion of tax due. They're probably not kept whole, but they're getting a portion of the back taxes due. But if there's no takers, it stays in a tax title status.
Then another follow-up is if someone does want that piece of property, can they reach in and pull it out and say, we'll give you X amount of dollars for it, or does
That
it?
would be a private negotiation that would be authorized by this resolution. The executive could, if there was an interest by a private party to acquire, the county could negotiate and sell the property through that process. That's what this resolution would allow for.
Okay,
as
thank
well.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll definitely have facilities, they'll go through their process of how they screen, what their criteria are at committee. Sounds like there's a lot of questions and interest, so.
Thank you. Thank you for answering our questions. And for teeing up the bigger conversation we want to have about tax title and surplus property. Any other questions about today's meeting agenda? Not seeing any. Thank you, Mr. Cox. That brings us to item 3, external boards and commissions. Mr. Taylor, if I can ask you to start the discussion.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have anything to report on today. This is a quiet week for the Puget Sound Regional Council in terms of their boards. Nothing to report out on PCRC either this week. So short report on my part.
Thank you. Do other members have any external boards and commission updates? Just to report that I am attending the Puget Sound Regional Council's Regional Safety Summit that they are convening this Thursday in Seattle for the region. Last I heard, there were 150 attendees, local elected officials, public works directors, community development directors, having this continued big conversation about safety as it relates to our transportation system. So that will be all day this Thursday, hosted by the Puget Sound Regional Council. I'll also note for members' benefit, the South Sound Housing Affordability Partners did meet in a special meeting yesterday to approve the budget of South Sound Housing Affordability Partners. No major deviations from the current capacity and the current budget, but we did adopt a budget for next year. Those budgets then get transmitted to all the member jurisdictions. So we'll be seeing that here in the coming weeks. Short and sweet meeting. It was a very straightforward budget for South Sound Housing Affordability Partners. And I'll also note that I put in everyone's inboxes a graphic tool that the SHAPE staff put together upon the board's request to help illustrate what area median income looks like, what it takes to afford rent at certain incomes or ownership in certain incomes, and just help illustrate that in layperson's terms a whole lot better. Those graphics are in your inbox, and our staff has it for future reference as we have policy discussions about housing, affordable housing, area median income. I think that tool just really helps bring to life what we're talking about and make it less academic. Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple highlights. For those that are on the Board of Health, you were emailed from Pat Darden a follow-up. We looked over our budget proposal, the one that comes to the executive and then comes before us. But as Board of Health members, being able to kind of get a head start or jump on that, and that will be adopted on our next regular Board of Health meeting, which is not tomorrow, but the following week. But Dr. Chen's retirement party officially, I know we were recognizing him today, but his actual event that's being planned is tomorrow. And happy to, if you did not get the invite, though I think it came out to everybody, share that information offline. And then I know that I sent out last week a document on Friday about the intersection between drugs and organized crime and missing and murdered Indigenous women and people. We met for our quarterly task force meeting on Friday for several hours to kind of go through what are the recommendations that we're looking at. And it's really looking like this work is being watched across the country as far as what we're doing here in the region and kind of taking the lead and saying there are some things that we need to do. And our data team is really just getting started, but the work coming out of the different subcommittees is really fascinating to kind of unpack the how we got to where we are. And so happy offline if people have specific questions, but they continue to do some really great work with some phenomenal partnerships and some very passionate people. So all with voices of victims and families at the core of that work. So it's been really powerful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Hitchin. Other external boards and commission updates? I'll briefly also just note that I will be serving on our state associations. Our state association has created a bylaws review committee, haven't updated their bylaws in about a decade, as I understand it, in any real substantive and holistic way. The big topic for our state association, our county state association, is about the weight of one's voice as I listen to the conversation. Currently, King County, Pierce County, Snohomish County, while they pay most of the dues by far for the association, their voice, our voice, their voice is equal to a much smaller county. I'm not saying money needs to talk, but that's what's being illuminated in these conversations right now. King County's vote in all ways at the state association is equivalent to Klickitat County's vote and voice. And folks are, especially from King County, are raising the concerns about that and how the association works and what it advocates for, doesn't advocate for. That is the crux of the concerns and why the president of the state association is formed a bylaw review committee, mostly for those kinds of topics to be discussed. And how can we accommodate the diversity of our state association, urban and rural, east and west, big and small? How can you accommodate all of that, different budgets, different resources, different needs? Tough to do, but bravo to our state association president for taking it on and asking for a committee to help think and inform some of that. I think where this is leading is possibly some bylaw changes coming to the body at the end of the year at the state association conference. At the end of the year, the bylaw changes need to be approved by the membership. So we have a couple of meetings scheduled for this bylaw committee coming up in July and August, and I'll keep you informed as to how the committee progresses with its work. But I do think the state association president, Mary Cooney from Spokane, has assembled a committee that is quite diverse and will be able to represent the diversity of thought of the membership quite well. I'm not seeing any other boards and commission updates, so we're going to move on to chair's topics. There's one scheduled conversation here, and that is preparing council for utilizing our new council agenda format. We've talked about this several times, but we're going to be able to use the new council agenda format for the first time at our first meeting in July, Wednesday, July 5th, at our special meeting at 12 noon on July 5th. A couple of items I wanted to talk about today to make sure we were prepared, and we'll continue to refine together as a team. First of all, clerk staff would be helping me put together an updated script for any chair to use and for the council to update going forward. But we'll be working on an updated script in alignment with the new council agenda format that was approved. And there were three areas that I wanted to talk through that I think are new, different, that's worth talking through. The first is the flag salute and land acknowledgement. The second is the consent agenda. And the third is proclamations. Those are the three really new items, I think, in how we are managing our council agenda. So for the flag salute, and just take each of these individually briefly. For the flag salute and land acknowledgement, what is proposed is when we get to that item on the agenda, the chair would indicate the purpose for the moment of silence, and then call on a member. The tradition we have is we rotate. We would call on the next member in line to lead us in the flag salute. They would read the land acknowledgement into the record. There would be a script of the land acknowledgement. I'll turn to Vice Chair Campbell here in just a minute. But the way that this is proposed to go is the chair would signify for the purpose of the moment of silence, invite the member to the council member to lead us in that flag salute and land acknowledgement. They would read the land acknowledgement. It would be scripted. And then that at the conclusion of reading the land acknowledgement, that member would then invite all of us to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We would pause for a moment of silence, and then we will gavel us back together to conduct the rest of our business. That is the proposal for how that part of the meeting would proceed. And I want to turn over to Vice Chair Campbell, who's led us in designing at least a base version of the land acknowledgement that we could use on an ongoing basis. We've said before that the land acknowledgement can change depending on if we're in different parts of the county or something is happening, but we have at least a base script to use that is thoughtful. Vice Chair Campbell?
Thank you, Chair. And I'll go ahead and hand this out. This is based on what presented a few weeks ago. Thank you to those who helped with some of the drafting of the language. As it would work, I'll wait for this to finish getting passed out. But as you said, the chair would say, we're at the acknowledgement. Today's moment of silence is in honor of our men and women military overseas. Call on Vice Chair Campbell. At that point, read the land acknowledgement here. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Coast Salish tribes. Coast Salish people have lived on and stewarded these lands since time immemorial and continue to do so today. We recognize that this land acknowledges one small step towards true allyship, and we commit to uplifting voices, experiences, and histories of the indigenous people of this land. And then I would say, will you all please stand and join me in a flag salute back in the room. I pledge. Do always recommend when leading the flag salute, make sure everyone's kind of just give a quick look to make sure everyone's set. I know sometimes we jump up to start with I pledge, and the audience can be scrambling a bit. So I always give them a little bit of a view of the room first. But questions on the language as updated from the last time I passed it up?
And this would all be scripted, including the final sentence of please stand for the, please stand, join me. If you can put that in your own words, but a base script would be available for all members at all times.
And I promise to use a slightly larger font when I reprint this.
We have other items to go through in the agenda to make sure what the updates are, but let's pause here to see what questions or comments we have about the flag salute and land acknowledgement. Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Chair. I believe for tradition, the flag should be first.
Why don't,
It's
Out of
listed.
respect to the country, the flag should be acknowledged first.
I've seen many other jurisdictions do it the way that is being proposed. I think we don't stand for the land acknowledgement. The land acknowledgement is read, and then we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Then we do a moment of silence, and then we proceed with the rest of our business. I've seen it work in several different jurisdictions
I-
quite gracefully that way.
That's not the problem. It's out of respect and what the flag is to the country, that should be first, and then the moment of silence, and then sit, and then you can do the acknowledgement and start the meeting. All meetings have usually been prayer, flag, and then meeting. We don't do prayer, so it should, I would think it would be flag, moment of silence, and then your land acknowledgement.
Do others have comments here? Thank you, Councilmember Cruver. We will take that into advisement. Councilmember Herrera?
No, I'll weigh in. I've been in several different organizations that do land acknowledgements, honor the flag. I've seen it done in many different ways, even in veteran organizations. And even here, we do the flag first and then we do prayer, and some organizations it's God before country. So I don't think there's any disrespect in adding this or the order of any of this to the flag. I think this is appropriate. The land acknowledgement is appropriate. It's very neutral. It's unifying, I believe. And I don't think whatever order we may take things, I don't think is going to disrespect anything that we have in this room here. But I understand what you're talking about over there. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Other thoughts or comments? Vice Chair Campbell?
I appreciate the discussion. I think we have a good proposal. Let's give it a try. And if it's not working, we're not deciding today forever. We're deciding what it'll be for the next meeting. And then we can take it from there. Because even the land acknowledgement we've said can be flexible. So
Thank you. The next item that is different is the consent agenda. In order to, the intent on the consent agenda, I intend to ask if any member wishes to pull any item from the consent agenda. Any member can do that, including the vice chair, of course. If you want to coordinate with the vice chair to make the motion, I'll leave that to members. But in order to give every member a chance to pull an item from the consent agenda, my thinking is I'm going to change how I lead that portion of the meeting and pause and give any member an opportunity to pull any item from the consent agenda. Again, I think the vice chair is hyper aware of some of the items, but I want to give any member an opportunity to pull an item from consent, because we don't discuss any item. We don't give staff presentations, and we don't do discussion or debate on any item on the consent agenda. So that would be the reason for a member to pull an item from the consent agenda, if you don't think the vice chair already has it teed up. So remind you about that. That will be a new way that I propose to lead that section. And then we will do a public hearing on the consent agenda. You recall updates to the Open Public Meetings Act has bodies like us needing to take public comment on any items we take final action on. I think the advice of legal counsel is scheduling something, scheduling a resolution or an ordinance is not final action, it's scheduling. So I will not take public comment on scheduling of an item. I will take public comment on any final action items that are on the agenda. So you note that we've made our agenda really clear. Towards the top of the consent agenda, it says very clearly now, these are for scheduling purposes. Below, I think it's section C or something. I don't have the new agenda in front of me. I think it's section C. It would be for final action, or there might be another item that is there for final action. Any member can pull that item if they wish for debate, discussion, staff presentation to another section of the agenda. We'll do a public hearing on the consent agenda if there is final action on the agenda. And then we will take a roll call vote, if I remember to take a roll call vote. We'll take a roll call vote and then move on to the rest of the business of the meeting. So the new elements there, to be clear, we'll do a public hearing if there's final action. We'll pause and make sure every member has an opportunity to pull an item from the consent agenda. We won't just breeze right into a motion. Thank you. So that's the consent agenda changes. Councilmember Kitchen.
Thank you, Chair. I was looking for the document as you were speaking. So final action is clearly identified. Approval of final settlements, finals right in there, so people could comment on that. And then,
If it got, yes.
so if there was a
yes.
settlement agreement, because we get those occasionally and we've never taken public comment on that. And then what about other items? Is that, I know sometimes that's our catch-all, but is that something that public comment, or is it gonna, are you gonna try and figure it out from the dais when we have
In
those?
my
like-
interpretation of other items, most of the time it is a final action item. By my determination, most of the time, we'll have to use our judgment about the item. But if it's deemed a final action item, I would be inclined to allow public comment and
Okay.
err on the side of public comment. What I will rule out of order is someone commenting on introductions and scheduling.
Okay. And they have 3 minutes to comment on any and all. They don't get 3 minutes per item.
Correct.
Okay.
And you
So-
don't have to pull the item, right? So to be clear, there will be a public hearing on any final action items. It does not need to be pulled to another part of the agenda for there to be a public hearing. We will do a public hearing on the consent agenda if it's a final action item. So anything under consent agenda, sub C, sub D as in David, and E, generally speaking.
Okay.
Further thoughts, Councilor Hitchin?
No, just it's a change in process, so possibly using our social media and doing a quick little what's changed or something. We could talk to Brian and company about possibly doing something to kind of help educate, because this is new, we haven't done it, and reduces conflict if people know what they're walking to. And then having a display of what is officially kind of available for comments. Initially, when you're kind of teaching how this is going to work, because we'll all have to get used to it too, so that people can see what's allowable if they're there, especially if they wanted to comment on, I'm thinking of some of our frequent people that might show up and want to comment on 3 different things, being really clear about these are the items that you can talk about, and going from there, something just to kind of change the thinking so that there's not confusion, that they get 3 minutes on 3 different things.
Good comment. I'll try to be clear as I try to lead the meeting, and I'll ask our communications team to think about this conversation and see how we build communication tools to support the public in understanding what our new rules are and what their opportunities are for public input. Vice Chair Campbell.
So I don't have the document in front of me here, about to have it. Appointments, will those be under final action?
Those will propose to remain under final action on the consent agenda. And
So-
any member can move them if they want to.
So we won't need to move it for someone to make a comment on it. We don't have to move it to take public comment, and part of that public comment could be the person being appointed.
They could use their 3 minutes to introduce themselves.
Which could save a lot of, okay, we're gonna pull these 4 people off. Now they're gonna wait till we do the proclamations. Now we're gonna appoint them. They've shown up. You're under appointments. If you're here to be appointed, now would be a time that you could speak. They could speak to it, and we just adopt a consent agenda, and then they're appointed at that time. Without having to make them sit through a bunch of proclamations or tied up in the other business or opened up to other public comment on them.
I think that works. Audrey's going to be supporting me in updating the script. And so looking at Audrey to help me script that, is there any objection to handling appointments in the way that Vice Chair Campbell is suggesting? So let's stay on this thread if we can. Councilmember Denson.
My question would be, if we did it in the way that Councilmember Campbell just described, does that mean that we wouldn't, as council members, have an opportunity to thank them and say why we support them, or would we?
You would not, I would not call for debate or discussion on consent agenda items. So that is that is the downside to not pulling them off like we historically have. So we can ask questions, thank them, do that dialogue.
Okay. Just wondering, I don't know either way how I feel about it, but we could try it.
By show of hands, who wants to stay on this thread of how we do appointments and on our consent agenda? Any other comments on this?
I had the same thought as Councilmember Denson, so that's why I turned my light off.
Vice Chair Campbell, I think I'm hearing energy of doing it the way we've done it to pull items. But thank you for proposing an alternative for thinking.
And keep in our minds as we run through it the first couple times, be like, okay, I see how that would work now. And so
Would make it quicker.
Can always
I,
work in progress. So what I'm hearing is council, if the member being appointed is present online or in chambers, there will be a request by either the vice chair or a member sponsoring the item to pull the item to section 9, new section 9 on our agenda, resolutions, so that there could be the opportunity for that person to introduce themselves, council to ask questions, and council to have debate and discussion, including offering
let
gratitude
me do this real quick.
to the member.
Can I see the?
Vice Chair Campbell? We're going to move,
Section 9's after,
there's no longer an appointment section because we moved proclamations, awards, and recognitions to its standalone item.
so we would be recognizing them after we do all of our business of ordinances and resolutions. They'd have to sit through the whole meeting.
We can change the order of the agenda. And so I would very likely ask if
Courtesy,
there's any
yeah.
objection to changing the order of the agenda to take it up so that we don't, if they need to leave, they can leave. With the council can change the order of the agenda at any time without objection.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to, it's enough to make them sit through our proclamations, have them sit through our business too, is too much to ask.
My intention would be to ask for any objection
Oh,
to bring it to the top of section 7, before section 7, and take up a resolution out of order to be respectful of the volunteers' time. Councilmember Morel.
Thank you. And I concur with your rationale on that. Just so I understand, and maybe some of the new members, what is the impact of a council member voting no on consent?
Madam Clerk?
I don't have a microphone in front of me,
Oh.
but I believe the consent agenda has to be unanimous vote.
It's my understanding of sorry, Mr. Cox, my understanding of our adopted Robert's Rules of Order, we would have to,
Right.
consent agenda is meant to be unanimous,
Right.
which is why my instinct is always to do a voice vote, but the bad instinct with our adopted rules here. So if someone did vote no on the consent agenda, what would be the protocol?
Protocol would be to move the consent agenda to a roll call vote.
But it's always a roll call vote per our current rules. So if someone votes
But you'd be doing it item by item.
item by item,
Or you change the schedule and move it to its own separate item under other business.
does that make sense, Councilmember Morel?
So if we did it,
Did you want to offer something? Okay.
Doesn't happen very often, first of all, but I don't know, maybe in my memory, it's happened once or twice. And the result has been that the items go to other business and then they're discussed and debated, moved individually and voted on individually under other business at the end of the agenda has been our practice.
Okay, the recommendation is if a member is intending to vote no, just pull the item and we'll debate it and you'll have your opportunity to vote no if you want to. Vice Chair Campbell to weigh in on this?
Pretty much concur. It's happened once since we were here that someone threw a no vote on the consent agenda. Every item was moved then to other business and then voted individually, and there were 9 items that day. So we had to go through public hearings 9 times, but Yeah, otherwise you just pull one off. But if it's not unanimous, then every item will be considered individually under other business would be the Robert Rules of Order way of handling that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Councilmember Denson.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was from before.
So that's the consent agenda. The last section that is newer for this body is proclamations. We have a new section 7 titled Proclamations, Recognitions, and Awards. And for proclamations, recognitions, and awards, we will not be voting on any proclamation, recognition, or award any longer. And therefore, there will also be no public hearing because it's not considered a final action item like other final action items. In my mind, it's a lot more like a letter the council, hang with me here for a second. It's more like a letter that council agree or members of council agree to sign because we're still all signing it. The chair is not the only one signing a proclamation. There's opportunity for all members to sign a proclamation. So that's why I'm using this example of like a letter that the council decides to sign on. It's there are several opportunities for council members to see the content of the proclamation through our extensive public noticing process. But so there will be no vote and there will be no public hearing and no public testimony. The only folks speaking to the proclamation are those invited by the chair to receive the proclamation. So the intention is a proclamation gets scheduled, and to be clear, any member can make a request for a proclamation. There includes a tool on the council's website for a community group to make a request. There's a tab on the website to make requests. You all know how to make requests on behalf of your constituents or the things you're following. That then gets teed up for consideration and then teed up for the Rules Committee to schedule. The Rules Committee schedules proclamations, recognitions, and awards, like the Rules Committee schedules all of our other items. My style, I've been highly encouraging, we do no more than 2 proclamations, recognitions, or awards to, because of the length of time, having 3 or 4 or 5 seems to diminish the importance of the others if we have too many. It's my style. So I highly recommend 2 or fewer. We do make exceptions from time to time in extraordinary circumstances. So the guests will be invited to the podium. If you're leading a proclamation, please do work with the clerks to make sure the names of those individuals are here for me to invite them. Member that requested it or that volunteered would still read it into the record. And the person at the folks at the podium will have an opportunity to speak and receive it, and then we'll take a photo to memorialize the moment. One other item in terms of procedure in our office, I've noted that I use the analogy of proclamation being like a sign-on letter. To that end, because of the way our process works here, you're gonna, all members will see the proclamations, you see them show up in agenda review. Like, for example, today at the end of our agenda, you see proclamations that are in the hopper for next week. So this is the first time maybe some of you might be seeing this. You see proclamations at the end of the study session agenda. There's the expanded agenda list at the very end of our study sessions. If you look at the very end of the study session, there's always an expanded list. And that also includes a matrix of proclamations in the hopper. I'm trying to explain, there's many opportunities for council members to see, oh, a proclamation is coming on that. I'm interested in that. I want to know more about that one. You look at the expanded list at the very end of the study session. It usually shows up weeks or months in advance. When the Rules Committee meets to set the agenda, that's the next opportunity to see a proclamation and its content. when the packet goes out Friday afternoon for the following week. That's another opportunity for you to see the proclamations that are in the packet. What we're moving to is an opt-out process for signing on to a proclamation, like we have an opt-out process for signing on to letters that council might send. So the new protocol is going to be the Monday before the meeting, 24-hour notice to give notice to the clerk team by using PC Council. So they would need a brief email to you, right? PC Council, please remove me from a proclamation supporting X, Y, and Z. It's an opt-out process, not an opt-in process. You are assumed opt-in, and the clerks will add your signature block to the proclamations unless you send a very brief note, or your CA sends a brief note to PC Council asking your signature to be removed. And they need 24-hour notice because of how all the paperwork moves around our office. So Monday at 3 p.m., the day before the meeting, is your deadline to opt out. Don't think this is going to happen very often, but in the few times where you might want to opt out, that is our procedure. Questions or comments about how we're handling proclamations, starting as early as next Wednesday, July 5th at our special meeting? Vice Chair Campbell.
Thank you. And as one of the longer tenured members here, is there a time limit on how long a proclamation can last? No, we had one that was an hour long one time. Councilmember Morel may remember.
We do not have anything like that in our rules.
Thank you.
Without public testimony, that might be.
We-
limited.
In extraordinary circumstances, I'm not suggesting we have an hour-long proclamation. And again, we're going to roll with it. There's something ceremonial we want to celebrate, like the princesses, the Daffodil Court. We're going to invite all of them to introduce themselves like we do and promote them and their leadership. So, we're going to roll with it a little bit.
It was a worthy moment.
It was. Other questions about proclamations or suggestions about how we manage this? Be a work in progress. We'll script it. We'll continue to refine as we go along. Thanks, everyone. I wanted an opportunity to really just talk through some of the newer elements so everyone has an understanding. And if anyone has suggestions for refinements, it's not set in stone and we can make adjustments together. So please don't be shy about making your suggestions for refinements. Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Just actually more of a question. If I was the public and wanted to see this, is there a way for me to do that? Because it used to be, because it was legislation, you could find it that way. It's no longer legislation. So how would I find it? I would have to go to like the study session packet. So I'm just trying to figure out how do we make that clear for public if they wanted to find it? And this could be a someday, like we're going to make it happen, but it.
I know Mr. Taylor and the team have been thinking about this because it's no longer gets loaded in EDS because it no longer
Right.
has a resolution or ordinance number. We with nothing to hide. We want to remain transparent. I know you're working on this.
Yes, we are looking at options. In the near term, it would be in the packet, right?
Okay.
But you're correct, since it will not be a resolution anymore, it would not be an EDS. And so the public couldn't access it through the normal way you'd access legislation. But we are working on other options to make certain that in addition to the packet, maybe there's other ways to feature it.
So just have a landing page on our site, since
Mhm.
it's basically just coming through us, that just has all of the proclamations as work and say work in progress and past or something. But okay, thanks. I was just curious. Thanks.
Thanks. I know our clerks team and communications team is listening to this conversation and helping us think about how to do that. Any other thoughts about our updated council agenda format? Thank you for the discussion, everybody. I'm going to move us to other business. We do have a executive session that we will have to take remotely because legal counsel is on Zoom. But before that, we do have more other business that we have scheduled for today. And that is our diversity, equity, and inclusion update. We have Judy Archer, the Director of Human Resources, not Human Services, as it says on our agenda. We have Judy Archer, the Director of Human Resources, here to give council an update on Pierce County's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program. Director Archer, thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure to be here. If you'll recall, we updated the Public Safety Committee meeting about 2 years ago on the progress of DEI here at Pierce County. And then last year I spoke to council about the Great Resignation and some of the work that HR was doing related to recruitment and retention. So we wanted to take an opportunity to update you both on what HR is doing in regard to just normal operations and also in regard to DEI. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of you. Next. So what we're going to cover for you today is a brief look at our organizational chart, and so that you have this as a resource going forward, what the different divisions within HR have accomplished and their objectives for 2023. And then similarly for our DEI work groups, which are chaired by HR leadership, what have they accomplished and what are their objectives going forward? So with that, I will look at the chart. So this shows the different divisions that we have, and we are currently fully staffed, which is a great pleasure because we started last year 8 people down. So we've done a lot of work in doing some great recruitment and have a very strong HR team to serve the county. Next. And I'll pass it off to Lisa.
Good afternoon, Chair Mello and council members. Lisa Hilligoss, Assistant Director of Labor and Employee Relations Division over in HR. So we are a 7-member team that is responsible for a large and varied body of complex work that we perform on behalf of the employees here at Pierce County. As you are aware, our work includes contract negotiations and administration. And in addition to that, we are also responsible for conducting equal employment opportunity and misconduct investigations. We handle performance management, which includes corrective and disciplinary actions, manager and supervisor consultations on a variety of labor and employment topics, administration of the county's reasonable accommodation program, handling unemployment claims, the administration of the drug and alcohol program, and we also provide training to managers and supervisors on a variety of topics throughout the year. So this slide covers the 2022 statistics and workload related to our body of work, and I'll just take a minute to highlight a couple of areas. So in 2022, as you are aware, it was a heavy bargaining year for us. So in addition to our regular workload, we successfully concluded bargaining of all 21 of the county's labor contracts. This included the 4 interest arbitration groups at the Sheriff's Department. Additionally, we completed 16 full EEO investigations, which covered allegations based on a wide range of protected activities, including race, national origin, disability, religion, age discrimination, and retaliation. We conducted 9 misconduct investigations and drafted 92 corrective and disciplinary documents, ranging from memos of expectation to separation of employment. And those items focused on policy violations, behavioral issues, and performance concerns. We do pride ourselves in providing timely and quality advice and guidance to the managers and supervisors here at Pierce County. In 2022, we conducted or documented 330 significant supervisor-manager consultations. We define significant consultation by when a question is new, it requires some research on our half, and that we document that in order so we have future reference. We also responded to 830 emails in our general labor inbox. Next slide, please. So this year, in 2023, as you're aware, we will be bargaining all 17 of our non-interest arbitration contracts. Our focus for 2023 is to enhance department awareness and engagement in the bargaining related to their particular contracts to ensure alignment with county and department goals and understanding of the contract terms. We completed a survey in 2022 after completing contract negotiations. We asked departments to provide us with feedback on how we can improve the process from their perspective. We've taken their feedback, developed a plan for addressing their concerns, and expanded on aspects that they appreciated. We'll also planning on conducting another survey after this round of bargaining to determine, where continuous improvement may be needed, and also what we need to continue doing that we're doing well. Additionally, half of our labor team is actually, while they're not new to bargaining in general, they are new to bargaining here at Pierce County. So we have prepared a structured and comprehensive plan that will help support them at the bargaining table. We will also focus on increasing the number of supervisors and managers trained in supervising represented employees this year. This training was newly developed in 2022, and it is intended to provide awareness and understanding of common labor relations topics and concepts, and to help increase their level of comfort and confidence when dealing with union-related issues. At the beginning of 2023, following a request for proposal, a new vendor was secured for conducting our pre-hire and DOT physicals and drug alcohol testing. Multicare, our previous vendor, no longer provides this service, so we needed to find a new vendor. Concentra Healthcare is now our vendor, and we continue to work with them to smooth out the testing process and coordination between Concentra and the applicable Pierce County departments to ensure consistent practices and processes across the county. And then finally, a goal in relation to our other workload areas is just to continue to ensure that we're providing timely and effective advice, consultation, and training to supervisors and managers as needed. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you for
afternoon,
that.
Council.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Council members and Chair. I'm Carrie Froelich, the Classification and Compensation Manager. Our classification and compensation team consists of 4 employees, and as a part of a larger team, our talent management team, along with recruitment. I'd like to highlight a couple of Class and Comp's top accomplishments for 2022. So we've reviewed 217 classifications for internal equity as well as department and countywide hierarchy. This work was in preparation for the Siegel salary survey. The team leveraged Power BI to house our class inventory as well as create an equity tool to analyze exception requests. Power BI has allowed our team to view compensation data in a more comprehensive and organized way. This tool was key in reviewing department and countywide hierarchy and has also helped to streamline our survey participation and equity review processes. We also received 270 department requests throughout 2022. The chart here shows a breakdown of the requests that we received, some of which are salary or leave accrual exceptions, equity reviews, reclassifications, or creations of new classifications. Next slide, please. So our top 2023 objectives are, we're currently collaborating with IT to create a platform that's going to allow market competitiveness and compensation data to be managed in-house. So that means we'll no longer need to rely on an outside vendor for compensation data. The platform will allow current Class and Comp staff to perform this work moving forward. In conjunction with labor, we will embark on a project to update all 452 Pierce County job classifications. We are partnering with the Workday HR team to expand our use of Workday to incorporate classification data within the system as well. This, we hope, will help with tracking and future updates as we move along. We're also updating our request forms to reduce processing time and improve collection of metrics. We're collecting metrics such as time to fill, number of requests, what requests are approved or not approved. We are in the process of creating a classification and compensation web page. We currently don't have one. So this will be phase 1, and we will add as we move along throughout the year and it progresses. Our focus is on communication and compensation transparency and building relationships throughout the county. We also are updating the classification and compensation training portion of supervisory essentials training. Some of the things that we're going to focus on are admin guidelines that pertain to compensation and classification, equity, what equity reviews are like, and then also our pay philosophy. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Derrick, and I'm the recruitment manager. My team makes up the other half of talent management with Carrie's classification and compensation team. We're a team that's made up of 6 employees that is focused on hiring the best employees to do work on behalf of the residents of Pierce County. One of the main accomplishments we had in 2022 was the relaunch of our internship program. The internship program was started back in 2017, and due to COVID, it went on a brief pause. So we were excited to see that relaunch last year. We were able to reduce barriers to hiring by creating opportunities for applicants in both an education path or a path for those that are interested in government opportunities. In addition to that, we were excited that we were able to increase our base pay to a more competitive market rate to allow for those for opportunities for those to be more accessible to underrepresented communities. In 2022, we managed 9 interns throughout a 12-week program supporting our mission of gaining knowledge, skills, and abilities through collaboration and mentorship that will help to develop and sustain our future workforce. We're proud to say that of the 9 interns, 100% of them would recommend Pierce County as a future employer. The 2023 program just kicked off on June 5th, where we have 10 interns spanning over 7 departments throughout the county. At the start of 2022, we really made an effort to diversify our outreach efforts. In 2021, we attended 40 career events, primarily done virtually due to COVID, and 0 events within our community. 2022, we attended 23 in-person career events, 7 virtual, and 6 community events. The focus was being more intentional about where we're participating in and showing up in our community. We expanded our reach, and some of those events included Latinx, the Bite of Black Business Festival, Bethel Community Day, and the District Court Resource Fair, where we work in partnership as a fair chance employer. In several of these instances, Pierce County was often recognized as the only local government agency in attendance. We are also focused on increasing collaboration and partnerships within the county and local communities to partner and leverage our existing relationships. We wanted to share information and attend events together. As Judy had mentioned at the beginning of this, we were at the height of what was deemed the Great Resignation or the Great Retirement. So during 2022, the recruitment team was very busy supporting a large volume of meritorious recruitments with a focus on equity within our processes as well as our salaries. In addition to that, most of the members of the recruitment team are representatives on both the recruitment and work-based work groups for DEI. And with that, I want to emphasize that we oftentimes lead a lot of the projects that those work groups put forward. Next slide, please. Okay, some of the objectives that we focused on for 2023 within recruitment, we wanted to emphasize our team themes, what's our consistency and efficiency. Part of that involved updating our centralized recruitment processes to maintain our existing time to fill on all of our county-wide vacancies. Right now, we are able to do that much quicker than any of our local competitors. We also wanted to share consistent messaging so all of our candidates have a positive recruitment experience and remember that Pierce County is an employer of choice. With additional communication spending, we'd have the opportunity to align our marketing to drive a more diverse candidate pool, and that we could allow us to be inclusive and proactive with our sourcing efforts through LinkedIn. In the past, we've been able to source for executive level positions and have found Dr. Klein, our medical examiner, Jenta Totson, the Director of Planning and Public Works, Constance White, the Clerk of Superior Court, and then Kelly Lewis, our very own Assistant Director of Human Resources through LinkedIn. Additionally, we are focused on updating our branding through job announcements, communication with our candidates, our websites, and resource documents as well in order to enhance our recognition in our community, set us apart from our competitors, and create value tied back to our county mission. As I mentioned on the previous slide, we are looking at diversifying our outreach. And one of the things that we did through that is we implemented something that we refer to as OSET. That's our outreach community engagement team. And what that is members throughout the county of different departments are already actively going out in an effort to share different information with what their departments are doing. We wanted to expand upon that. And so with that, we are going out and partnering with those already in our community so that we can share about the great opportunities that Pierce County has. We focused on high schools, underrepresented communities, and community events with this program, which also helps to support our DEI recruitment work group. As of June 1st, we've attended 27 different events so far, with 22 of those being focused on community events, to include the Women in Trades, the Chief Leschi Career Fair, and additional high school outreach. We've got a total of 36 scheduled for 2023 moving forward. Within 2023, we were able to facilitate some on-the-spot hiring events, with our largest being at the Pierce County Career Fair. That resulted in 34 scheduled interviews being provided, with 16 offers extended. Our hope for 2024 is to expand upon that and offer on-the-spot interviews and potentially offers for some of our career service positions. In conjunction with that, we conducted extra hire recruiting events and hiring events that resulted in all of planning and public works seasonal extra hire positions being filled prior to the summer season. This is the first time that that has happened for us, so we were really excited to see all of those vacancies filled prior. The goal will be to take what we did with planning and public works and to expand upon it to support the seasonal hiring within parks, primarily around haunted headlights and fantasy lights and additional extra hire positions that they have. And then finally, we do have a focus on our supported employment program. Ideally, we would be working with the departments throughout the county to assist qualified job candidates with development disabilities and aligning their skills to match our business needs. After FTEs would be approved for this program through the budget process, our team would be ready to recruit for this program. Thank you. Next slide.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Raul Leal Trujillo, and I'm the manager of the Organizational Development and Training Division. Our main purpose in our division of ODT is to strengthen our culture, skills, knowledge, leadership skills, and team building development that has a direct impact on productivity, efficiency, retention of the talent that we have, conflict management, de-escalation of conflict, and an increase in equity for Pierce County government and all employees. We are the preventive side of HR. We help develop talent and leaders and bring cohesion to teams to decrease legal risk, to increase effectiveness, and to increase the quality of how we serve the residents of Pierce County. Some of the accomplishments that we have in 2022 include the leadership certification program, started having the first cohort certified in the 3 levels of the leadership certification program that we have: bronze, leader, silver, and gold. We have 135 certified leaders. This is important because it really helps us with our efforts on leadership succession and knowledge transfer, mainly because of the huge amount of retirements due to demographic changes, baby boomers retiring, etc. We also expanded DEI training delivery in many areas. DEI, we see it as having a very robust impact on employee engagement and team integration and effectiveness for our leaders and collaboration. With only a 3-member team, we delivered 240 live trainings during 2022. We had 125 consultations directly. This is another way that we do it. We help develop our organization and develop our teams through training, but also with direct consultations and coaching of our supervisors, managers, and team members to increase their collaboration and effectiveness. We had, during the 2022, also we had 117 learning needs analysis completed. This means that all training and all learning, and including online learning, is very targeted into key performance indicators. Among them, turnover, diminished turnover and attrition, increased collaboration and engagement. We measure this through the employee engagement survey that we have every year. We also had 20 e-learning trainings developed during that time, and we managed 2,253 Pierce County online learning users through LinkedIn Learning. Next slide, please. The objectives that we have for this year, and we are starting to see results from these objectives is to continue to launch employee resource groups. We started with employee resource groups in January. We have 4 so far with members. We have the LGBTQ plus ERG, Employee Resource Group, the Hispanic group, the African American Black group, and the Veterans group. Also, another important objective that we have is implementation of DEI training directly to build culture. And we have this development program that includes iLead, which stands for Inclusive Leadership Development Training, which is integrating equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all the activities that our supervisors, managers, and leaders perform to bring teams together and more collaboration and effectiveness. Also, we have the inclusive team development training that is for team members that are not in supervisory positions. And something very important as well that we have as an objective is to roll out the behavioral health first response training. This is super important due to the increase in behavioral health issues due to the pandemic for employees in general and for the entire population. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Chair Mello and council members. I am Candace Thomas. I am the Administrative Program Manager with Human Resources. I'm over the administration team. We are also a team of 7, which includes the County Leaves Benefit Specialist. Our team is responsible for the human capital data within Workday for all county employees, as well as the federal and state leave processes. We serve as a frontline customer service for human resources for the county. In 2022, we processed over 3,000 data changes, which encompasses just about anything that has to do with you as a county employee. We also have made a strong emphasis on our internal and external customer service in 2022. Our team collectively handled over 8,000 email and phone contacts, county and community-wide. To continue improvement on customer service, we have worked on several large process improvements within the county's Workday system. One of our successful projects, for example, is the employee self-start for family medical leave, which improved our process time over 45%. Additionally, the self-start separation requests and separation leave requests within Workday has been a strong success in improving services for our customers. Both of these processes have not only improved process time, but falls in line with moving to a more digital format. Additionally, we have been working diligently to update our specific internal web pages to provide the most current information on leaves, Linnell badging, and Department of Retirement Systems information. Our goal is to create an easy to find, easy to maneuver web pages. This work is a continued objective for us for 2023. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our objectives for 2023 is a continued focus on customer service in the areas of incorporating the ability to electronically sign documents within the Workday system, which is part of our sustainability to reduce paper, as well as a continued focus on updating and improving our internal web pages. Additionally, we are working with General Services to continue to move our remaining physical records into a more digital format. A direct focus for 2023 is a continued improvement in making the onboarding process for hires more efficient and employee-focused. We are doing this by providing an arena for mass processing, onboarding, and Linnell badging events. We have conducted 4 such events to date. Thank you.
We have 5 diversity, equity, and inclusion work groups here at the county. The initiative started in 2018. The work groups launched in 2019. These work groups are chaired by Human Resources leadership, but contain members from not only the executive branch, but every independent department of the county. So courts, auditor, everybody has an opportunity to participate in these. There are some activities that these groups that are done by the work group members, and they also advise work for HR department divisions to do as well. Next. And I am the chair for the Strategic Oversight and Coordination Committee, which regularly reviews the work that the other work groups are doing to create a continuity and single focus point. We also are supportive of those work groups and ensuring that they have the resources that they need to get things done. And finally, we use the information that we receive about the DEI work to help us be prepared to be a voice in the community, because many of the members of the SOC also have prominent roles and frequent interactions with people outside of Pierce County employees. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Kelly Lewis, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Talent Management Team, which includes the classification, compensation, and recruitment groups, as well as facilitator of the DEI recruitment work group. The work group focus is to ensure fair treatment and full participation of all potential candidates who engage at every level of our employment process by applying inclusive and equitable pre-employment strategies, processes, and procedures. The number of diverse applicants, as defined by ethnicity, increased by 8% between the years 2021 and 2022. And the current applicant pool is more diverse than the actual census of the county at this time. Next slide, please. Our 2022 accomplishments included attending more diverse events and fairs in underrepresented communities to showcase Pierce County as an employer of choice. Lindsay previously gave you a few examples of like the Latinx Festival and the Bite of Black Business. We also increased access to recruitment materials and people by employing such things as QR codes and throughout our materials, as well as creating a monitored email inbox so we can take direct inquiries from candidates. And finally, we also removed arbitrary qualifications, such as requiring a driver's license for positions that do not require driving a county vehicle, and also substituted experience equivalency in lieu of education. Our objectives for 2023 are to double the number of outreach activities, but specifically with the focus to better market government work so people know that Pierce County is a place that they can go and actually prosper. With additional funding, we also hope to reduce the digital divide by having dedicated laptops for applicants to apply on the spot where they find us. The additional objectives we have are to create toolkits, so for our processes, and one would be for hiring managers to contain the materials and the best practices necessary to ensure we are hiring the most diverse group of employees. A second toolkit is for applicants so that we can have them navigate through our employment process and make that easier for them. We are also pursuing adding upload links to our career page. So that would be for candidates who can submit resumes directly to us without applying for a specific position, as well as a referral link that we can have our employees use to refer other qualified candidates. And then finally, we're partnering with our IT department to help clean up and expand our existing dashboards so departments can see their own progress in hiring diverse candidates. Thank you. Next slide.
Good afternoon again. I am chairing the work-based programs group, and our focus is developing pipelines within the county that, as it says, that identify and support with the creation of collaborative, equitable opportunities that will allow for development and application of skills in the context of our industries and expectations. This is done through partnerships with county departments and programs such as internship, Work Crew Plus, and externally with groups such as WorkSource Job Corps. Next slide, please. Thank you. In 2022, our accomplishments, we contracted between WorkSource Job Corps and our Parks and Recreation Department. This contract included 6 crew members. They actively worked 1,700 hours. While doing so, they also received from Job Corps a $2,800 living stipend. Additionally, at the end of their program, if they were successful in the program, they each received an educational award. All 6 were successful. In 2022, we also began the initiation of what we call the Train to Work program. This is being processed by a strong subcommittee, and they have developed the foundation at this time. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Our 2023 objective is a continued focus on the Train to Work program. This program is intended to aid disadvantaged populations with entry or re-entry into the workforce through a multiple-step process of skill development. This is in order to help them increase access to career development opportunities. The concept is to attract those who can benefit, those who are not already qualified for the work or who have barriers to working. The goal is making a sustainable program, understanding every partner's roles and abilities. Thank you.
Hello again, Raul again here. I facilitate the DEI training work group, and the main purpose of this work group is to inform, support, and measure DEI training efforts to develop employee skills and abilities to contribute to a more equitable workplace. It's fantastic the work that this work group has performed. Next slide, please. Some of the accomplishments in 2022 is this work group completed an analysis and framework for the DEI training and culture development program. There were holistic assessment performed through interviews and focus groups and having conversation on how to better develop this training so it can count with adult learning principles, that it will be engaging, and that we actually can use it for business purposes. So the main purpose of our DEI training program is that it can be a key for our managers to bring together and more collaboration into their teams and be more effective and more engaged. Also, the work group developed the guidelines for the employee resource groups. These groups, the main purpose of these groups is for people to have career development opportunities, leadership development opportunities, be more engaged and feel that they are an important part of the Pierce County government family. The objectives that we have for 2023. And the first one is to measure the impact of DEI training culture development program. It's important that we see that we are reaching the targets, that we're reaching the goals, that we're moving the key performance indicators that we're looking for. We're not looking to have a training that is just entertaining or some good information to have, but that actually can help people improve the impact and their performance as team members, as leaders, as public servants. Also, our second objective that we have is the integration of the DEI training resources, more DEI learning resources in leadership development. That means micro training, micro learning opportunities, the use of online training, bringing together the cohorts to share what they have learned, how they apply the things that they learned during the training, and also develop more into that, and also pivot, add, receive feedback, and improve the whole program. Third main objective, develop training and learning tools for continuous DEI education in general. Have these conversations continue on this journey, and have our employees and our leaders develop more adaptability for the good of the performance of the county. Thank you so much. Next slide.
Hi, I am co-chair of the Communications Work Group, along with Director of Communications, Libby Catalinich. And you can see our work group purpose on the slide there. But to summarize, we are just basically here to help tell our story so that employees, candidates, and even the community we serve can better understand the great DEI work we're doing here at Pierce County. Next slide, please. We have produced 3 digital DEI annual reports covering 2020, 2021, and the latest one, which covered 2022, was just released in May of this year. These reports have been a tremendous help in communicating our DEI initiative and progress to county employees and to the community. We have produced DEI videos on an average of once per month. These videos showcase a variety of topics, including people's personal stories, recognized heritage days, and various DEI initiatives. The videos are intended to provide a well-rounded understanding of DEI through the lens of Pierce County employees. And our external DEI website is updated each time we have a new video or report to share. In 2023, we will be conducting a DEI survey. So we conducted surveys in 2019 and 2021, and this is in line with the theme of doing a survey every other year. We will continue to release relevant DEI videos. For future video topics include highlighting our new inclusive leadership training that you just recently heard about, and the equity index and supported employment. We have some work to do on our internal DEI website to ensure it is up to date and matches the relevant content contained on our external website. The internal DEI website is where our employees go to learn about DEI in Pierce County and can be seen as a reflection of our commitment to DEI. Unfortunately, we have not had the staffing to maintain and update the internal website, and much information is outdated, so that's a focus of ours. And we will continue to coordinate with the other work groups to see how we can provide assistance with any initiatives that they may have. Thank you, and next slide, please.
We appreciate this opportunity to have this time to update you, and we are open to questions.
Well, we really appreciate hearing this very thorough update, Director Archer, from you and your leadership team. Clearly, you've done a lot of very thoughtful work and implementation over the last couple of years in particular. So it's a really warmly received update by you and your very hardworking team. Let me open it up for questions or comments by council members. Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Archer, for all of your whole team and what you've shared. There's a lot here. A wondering that I have, and I don't need anything today, I'm just throwing it out there, is we're doing a great job of starting to recruit a diverse workforce. I'm wondering if there's intentional planning around making sure that we keep a diverse workforce. So looking at retention numbers, employees that are staying with us, and engaging in some of our leadership opportunities.
Yes, we can give you more details as a follow-up, but that is a lot of what Raul is tasked with. Creating an inclusive environment so the diverse candidates that we bring to the county feel that they made the right decision and this is a place where they want to stay. So a lot of focus on making this an inclusive environment for everyone.
And I have to say, I'm enjoying the cat peeking from behind your head. I just had to say it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a quick question. I think it's on one of the presentation. I think it was under Raul. I was going to ask a little bit about the ERG, the employee resource groups. Can you talk a little bit more on what those are and what can a person find in an ERG group? Are they established yet, or you just have a few? Are you working on it?
Thank you so much for this question, and thank you for the opportunity. ERGs, employee resource groups, are self-guided by employees. We put guidelines together, but these are voluntary groups based on something common or special interest among the members. I need to also highlight that there are wellness groups. There's a bicyclist group. There is a group of employees that have common interests when it comes to wellness and physical activity. And the main purpose for these groups is for employees that have one or several things in common to come together and network. And also another objective is for career development, that they can exchange information on how to develop their leadership skills, develop the self-confidence to apply for leadership roles, supervisors, managers. I have a strong testimony for ERGs during my career with the state of Washington. I joined an employee resource group, and I learned that I could aspire to be a manager, to be a supervisor, to lead, that I could create the trust. And that's the main objective of employee resource groups. They have specific guidelines. This is for skill development, career development, leadership development, networking between the different areas in Pierce County. And so far we have had a very good response. It goes slowly because employees need to make sure of that is worth their time, that this is something that is going to help them, and the message is going out, and we have very good shares in each one of those employee resource groups. As I said before, we have 4 employee resource groups and 1 wellness group, and I can provide you with more information, even the guidelines and the activities that they're doing.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Well, again, Director Archer, and to your leadership team, congratulations on being fully staffed. That is a big accomplishment. And congratulations on all of this work that you updated council on today. This is a really important work and a lot of implementation. Clearly, you're taking the work very seriously, and we want to congratulate you and thank you for that. You, as previous members have said, there was a lot here that we learned that your team is leading and implementing, and it's forward progress every day. Consistently good work. One, just not to pick out just one, but just one thing that I heard, which is I think a really great indicator of the hard work paying off, is your presentation indicated that our applicant pool is demonstrably more diverse than years past. That is a very good indication. Work to do on retention, of course, and a lot of things, but that the applicant pool is getting demonstrably more diverse is worth celebrating. Thank you for your update. Please keep on going with this in the direction of this very good work. We appreciate you and your team.
Thank you very much.
Any final remarks, Director Archer?
No, I have none. We just appreciated the opportunity to share with you.
Thank you. Thank you again to the Human Resources team. Under other business, there are 2 proclamations for council review, Parks and Recreation Month and LGBTQ Pride Month, both to be proclaimed at council on Wednesday, July 5th. Please let the clerk's office know if you wish to opt out of either of these. The sooner the better, but July 3rd, Tuesday is a holiday. Tuesday, July 4th is a holiday. So Monday, July 3rd at 3 p.m. is your deadline to opt out per our new protocols. I also want to just note under other business that because next week is a holiday and there's no rules and operations committee of the council, all of the scheduling items that would normally be handled in rules for that week, because we've canceled meetings for both Monday and Tuesday of the holiday week, all of the items that ordinarily would go through for scheduling, for the schedule for the week, the agenda for the following week, that will all be handled on the consent agenda for Wednesday, July 5th. So please do look extra carefully at the consent agenda for Wednesday, July 5th, because it's going to do a lot of the work that rules ordinarily would have done for that week. Is there any other business by members before we move into an executive session? Councilmember Morel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for my benefit, is July 5th council meeting, is it assumed it will be in person?
It is.
Okay.
Any other business by members? Mr. Cox or Mr. Taylor, any other business for members today? Other than the executive session? Mr. Cox, to state the purpose of the executive session.
The purpose of this executive session is to discuss with legal counsel matters pending or potential litigation, pending or potential litigation, which the county may or may become a party, into which public knowledge of the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial impact for the county. We've been advised by the prosecutor's office that they will need 15 minutes. And I'll note we need to state the time that we will return back into open session.
So members, there is food in the Tahoma conference room. Let's start the executive session. We do need to do it remotely because of staff joining us remotely. Let's start at 1:55 Again, there's food in the Tahoma room for staff and members. We're going to start at 1:55 and we're going to come back here at 2:25 to allow time for council discussion. So we will be at recess until 2:25 p.m. Welcome back from our recess for the purposes of executive session. The time is 2:25 p.m. and seeing no other business before the Pierce County Council in Tuesday study session, we are adjourned.
We will turn the room over.